All right. Hey, it is the Brewmance, Russell and Hunter. I'm Mike Russell. He's Rob Hunter. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to do this every Monday at 4 o'clock. We're going to hang in on Friday around noon. We're going to give you a nooner. It's for free. I'm telling you. Rob Hunter along my side. We're going to cover everything that's going on in the world of, your world. So let's jump right into this. It was a huge day as the Senate has announced their version of a border security plan. This border security bill, Chuck Schumer, of course, saying, yes, we're going to pass this immediately. The Biden administration, the White House coming out strong saying this has to pass, must pass. And the House Republicans saying, this thing's dead on arrival. As a matter of fact, Speaker would be that guy. The Speaker of the House saying that this is absolutely worse than we thought it was. And so Rob and I went and dug in a little bit, and we're thinking, how can it be worse than you think a Senate border security bill will be? Well, let me just break it down for you just a skosh, if I could. Here's how the spending looks. Red Sea conflicts are going to get $2.4 billion for Red Sea conflicts. Indo-Pacific conflicts, we're going to look at $4.8 billion. Gaza's going to get $10 billion. Israel's going to get $14 billion. Here's U.S. border security. Ready for this? U.S. border security is not first on the list, is second on the list at $20 billion. Now, that's going to go to basically scooting all of the migrants through faster is what that's going to go to. And ready for this? A whopping $60 billion, three times, $3 for every $1 for border security in the border security bill is going to go to the Ukraine. Is going to Zelensky so he can go buy more yachts, going to Zelensky in this money laundering scheme that we've been involved in for over 2 years now. And nothing's happening, Rob Hunter.
And I think that's the important lesson because, Mike, here we are once again disappointed by something Washington has done. Isn't that the lesson here? No matter what happens, whatever the crisis is, the way the government responds through our politicians that we put there is always just a disaster because the Border Patrol bill is only because the headlines started to make Biden look bad about the border. So he wanted some Ukraine funding and Republicans were like, okay, you can have your Ukraine funding if you give us a border bill. And Biden's like, a lot of opinion pieces in the big major newspapers making me look bad. So yeah, fine. Throw in a little border bill. What's a couple $100 billion between friends at this point?
This is, again, when it comes down to Ukraine, it's just a money laundering scheme. Always has been, and it continues to be. Do you remember when we needed to give tens of billions of dollars for the counteroffensive? How'd that work out for everyone? The counteroffensive? Anyone? How did Ukraine won? Oh, they didn't win. Okay. The counteroffensive, and then we had to do billions of dollars for what? Oh, paying the salaries and pensions of all of the Ukrainian first responders, police, teachers, dog catchers, whatever it is. And we have to fund all of this. Meanwhile, we were going to throw all these sanctions on Russia, and these sanctions on Russia were going to give us what? Oh, crush the ruble. Remember that? Crush the ruble. Like Nancy Pelosi, crush the virus. It worked out about the same because the ruble's doing fine, COVID's doing fine, so nothing was crushed except for your wallet, Rob, and my wallet.
I just got gas the other day at $3.39 a gallon, so every time getting crushed.
Yeah, I'm being made fun of for trying these, like working the fries points system. And the reason why I use the fries points is because, I've got a 35-gallon tank on my truck. So the other places that you get points for, they cut the thing off at 25 gallons. I'm like, well, a lot of good that did me. And so fries let you go as much as you want. So I'm all happy. And now I'm working the system. I had to pay for Christmas dinner and Thanksgiving dinner just to get enough points to take it to where we were under the Trump days as far as gas prices. I had to spend $500 to bring it to my...
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's using like the 4-point system and all that nonsense. I had to pay $500 just to save $55 on a tank of gas. Yeah, and this is all. Remember, we were talking about that was Putin's price hike. Well, we've had over 2 years to fix this Putin anything, and now we're just twiddling our thumbs, going, "You're going to spend how much? $60 billion for what? More to Ukraine."
But
Zelensky's doing just fine. Zelensky's out buying yachts. He's doing great.
Well, that's, you can seize the Russian yachts, get your own. I think that the lesson for me is it's about time for us to wake up and understand this game that is played. It's all talk in Washington. So you've probably heard the phrase something along the lines or actions are better than words, or you can talk all you want, but the actions they take, because you notice something, even for Republicans who just started to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas. Now, remember, they ran for election in 2020 and 2022 telling you they're going to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas, who runs the border, the Department of Homeland Security. Oh, and look what's happening. Just a couple of months before the election, Republicans are finally getting their act together. They play us just as the Democrats do. In this bill, this conglomerate bill of spending when we have no money, $34 trillion in debt, that's the big part to me, that it's just the constant slap you in the face every time. Like, oh, it's election season. We got to do something to make it look like the American people were on top of things. You guys have had 3 years in this administration to impeach Mayorkas, get a border bill done, and now you're putting in a package in February, a couple of months ahead of the big national election. Oh, I see what's going on here.
Oh, we know they're going to play the game, but it's the names that are playing the game that's starting to upset me. I mean, our pal Kirsten Sinema has our senior senator from the state of Arizona is painting herself into a corner when she removed herself from the Democrat Party. I applaud her for doing that. And by the way, I applaud anyone who will back away from any one single ideology. I will say you're doing good. You're doing the right thing. You're representing a large swath of people if you do that. So I applauded her for doing that. So I thought she would act independently in this case, especially when it comes to her beautiful state of Arizona, the one that she is representing as a senior senator. Oh, she's all about this. Her ink is all over this bill. Her support is smack dab right behind this bill. And it is absurd to say that if you are from a state that is largely and mostly impacted, yes, more than New York City, yes, more than poor little Chicago. Yes, our border towns here in Arizona and in Texas have been destroyed and crushed by what's going on at the southern border. And you, as the senior senator, are going to back a bill that $3 to 1 goes to Ukraine. For every dollar spent on the southern border, which, by the way, doesn't shut off the border, because I have a little nugget for you in just a second. But for every dollar that goes to securing the border, 3 go to Ukraine for nothing in Ukraine. By the way, I just saw a bunch of Russian videos about how they're shooting down the drones that we're sending Ukraine. They're shooting down the drones with 12 gauge shotguns. Anyway, we'll get to we'll get to that in a little bit later. Yeah, well, didn't Biden say we're just sending them the junk we didn't want anyway? I guess that's a swimming example of it. But here's one of the key parts. Is that they claim, the Democrats claim that, or the authors of this bill and the sponsors of this bill claim that it will shut down the border. And there is a shutdown trigger in this piece of legislation. Here's the scary part. The border shuts down. And if you just read the headline, the border shuts down after 5,000 crossings in a day. Excuse me? That's 150,000 a month. So, okay, we're gonna really secure the border and take it from 250,000 crossings a month to 150,000 crossings a month. So with 5,000 a day, here's the deal. You got to read past the headlines, as we always encourage you to do here. Read past the headlines, get into those details, because that's where El Diablo lives, is right in those details where it says it needs to be a 7-day rolling average of over 5,000, and then we'll shut it down on the 7th day where there's over 5,000. So we'll go ahead and let 35,000 plus in, and then think about closing it down. So don't think that when you hear your pals say, oh, hey, this border security, the Republicans just blocked border security. Well, the Republicans actually read the bill and represented at least me and saying, no, I'm not for funding Ukraine and keeping the border wide open.
Yeah, it's almost like a magician's sleight of hand, what they do in Washington all the time. To your point, Mike, and going past the headlines, that's what they're hoping. Oh, okay, great. It's the border bill that can shut down the border. Number one, why can't you do that now?
Amen.
This is the United States border. You would think that the United States government has a provision where, we can shut down the border. They shut down Lukeville in Arizona, which got overwhelmed. So
yeah,
the fact that they have to pass a bill to have this authority is super weird in and of itself. because who's policing themselves? Like, who's policing this? Who's got the power? Because, these are people in Washington that love to exercise every bit of power they have. Yet all of a sudden, oh no, we're going to wait till it's 5,000 people. Huh? Plus, here's the other part about that.
A rolling average.
Exactly. But this is also tricky because the sleight of hand that the Biden administration pulled at the very beginning was, we're going to roll everybody into an asylum plan rather than being here illegally. So the asylum process is a legal process of which I come to the United States, I'm claiming asylum, economic hardship, gangs in my city where I live, whatever it is. And then you wait for that process to go through a court or a hearing or whatever the process is. That will still apply here, I would guess. Maybe they'll limit the number of asylum seekers or make stricter, I guess, criteria for being able to do it. But it's already too late. There are at least 10 million people in the last 3 years that have come into the country.
Here's what it is. It is you not fixing your brakes, knowing there's something wrong with your brakes, and you go on I-10 and you cause a 500 car pileup and tell everyone in the 500 car, don't worry, everybody, it's okay. I'm going to get my brakes fixed now. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. Don't everybody stop your complaining. We're America. We're the richest country in the world. We can fix 500 cars. It's okay. Yeah, a couple of people died. Forget about that. It's too little, too late. And by the way, this too little isn't even something. It's like Rob mentioned. It is simply just placating in an election year. And this is a strategy by the left, a strategy by the right as well. And apparently it served them well because we keep reelecting these slappies. So here's what it is. The Democrat we have put forth a piece of legislation to secure our southern border. Yes, all experts agree this piece of legislation will secure the southern border. And we're going to get into a little bit later in the program as to exactly why they can lie to you and do it legally. But it's going to get to this. It's going to secure the southern border. But the Republicans, that Speaker Johnson, did not allow it to even go to a vote. They want mass importation of migrants, and they want to kill the U.S. economy. Vote for us. That is the strategy here. Because Schumer isn't, look, as crazy as the man is, he's not stupid. He isn't. He's an ideologue that's a moron, but he's not stupid. And so he understands that this bill isn't going to go anywhere with Speaker Johnson. But it's getting all the press and the headlines that the Senate Democrats have brought forth a border security bill. So America says, well, where's the border security now? Oh, the Republicans blocked it. Oh, instead of reading the headlines, past the headlines. Sorry.
But it's really a symptom of how we get information too, in what we're willing to do. And by the way, hi, Ronnie, Justin, Jim, Ed, Darlene, Deanna, Dave, what's going on? You guys can comment along with us on Facebook. Cheers. We're going to do this live every Monday at 4 and every Friday, the nooner. That'll be noon, Mike and I. So you can comment on Facebook. You can comment on YouTube, streaming live on both places. We can see the comments as we go. So please, it's like the old caller days back in the day. So this is going to be a little bit of a different approach, but same Mike, same Rob. And, I want to go back to this point of accepting personal responsibility for what we have done to this country, because I almost feel like Mike and I were talking about this earlier. I feel like America's just given up. We the people, we're like, the hell with it. It sucks. I'm done. Because we keep doing the same thing over and over again. We keep going to the same sources to get the same warped information over and over again. When we get riled up about it and we hoot and holler about it and we blame the quote unquote other side, yet we don't look at our own side and go, why is our own side doing the same thing that we're complaining about the other side? Because ultimately this country only changes if you decide that you're going to change. And then maybe you can impact your neighbor to change, your friends to change. Mike and I talk about this all the time. In withdrawing from the day-to-day political system as it operates, you can see things a little bit more clearly about how it's all games meant really to distract us with those surface level conversations to keep us squawking at each other and not paying attention to the realities. So while we're over here, they're doing their things behind the scenes that we're not even paying attention to.
And I think during our little hiatus that we took, by the way, one of the things that happened during the hiatus, I became a basic white guy and got a Stanley. How about this thing? I now carry a bucket, a 5-gallon jug of water around with me, but I'm quite hydrated. In our break, in our hiatus, I didn't. I spent a lot of time in the field. I spent a lot of time with family. I spent a lot of time dealing with life, and I tuned a lot out. I tuned out a lot of the normal day-to-day headlines and articles and research that Rob and I have done for 4 years with you, and that Rob's done for over 20 years. I've done for 15 and 16 now. Doggone it. And Rob and I have been friends for 16 years. For the love of grief. Holy cow. Kids still call him Uncle Rob. I kid. But what I realized in this is, okay, there's a little something liberating about it. And in the liberation comes from, I just need to, in all of this, know what I can handle and know what I can change and know what I can change and know what I can't handle. And in that, I need to know, okay, here's where I see the trajectory going with the border. How is that impacting my state? How is that impacting inflation? By the way, the housing prices greatly impacted by the 9 million migrants that have just shown up here waiting for their asylum seeking hearing, right? How is that impacting me? So how do I make sure that my kids can own a home? How do I need to be how do I take care of my own tribe? And how do I take care of my own nest while I know that all of this is going on, and then use the microphones that Rob and I have to hopefully impact some change and some motion to bring on that change?
And using myself as an example in changing the way I think, like going back to Yoda, Mike, you got to unlearn what you learn.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to start over and start looking at things a different way, or you start looking at all the ways. And then you start understanding what Mike just said. I can't change the border. All I can do is vote and go about my life. So if I want people to vote a certain way, how do I talk to them about it? Because I can't just go over to my neighbors, knock on the door, and say, you guys see what's going on at the border? You better vote the same way that I do, because it's going to fix the problem. But here's the reality of that, though. Now, aside from the previous president, no one else has really done anything about the border.
That's
Nobody
true.
ever has.
That's an accurate statement. Okay. As the greatest border security president in the world. Okay.
So let's go back to 2000. So I start getting into the talk radio industry. Before that guy right there, George W. Bush. Republicans liked illegal immigration then because they could have business owners scoop them up and have cheap employees. I mean, that was the thing. When I first moved to Phoenix, where Mike and I live now, 2007, immigration was a huge topic.
And then we had a day worker program. We had good stuff going on. That we actually had it mildly figured out.
Yeah. But, at the time, there was some tension. There was some protests in 07, 08 here. It got to be a real hot issue in the 07, 08 years. Obama gets elected in 08. And I remember going out with Darryl Ancarlo, who I used to work with at the time, and we covered all these things. We went to the border in 2007. We walked around with no security guard. We're just talking to people, running into coyotes. No one cared. You can't do that now because it's completely different. So since 2000 to 2007, immigration's a big issue. From 2007 to 2024 now, the border is a completely different place. It is much more lawless, much more violent. It is controlled by the drug cartels primarily. They're making billions of dollars every day on human smuggling. I just met a guy recently in Texas from Cuba who came in the last year or so from Cuba, got into South America, took him 5 months to get into the United States. So he took advantage of this system. So he was telling me that
his travels took his travels took him 5 months.
Yeah.
Dang. From home to here.
Yep. You fly into wherever and you drive basically all the way up and you stay in certain places and then you got to walk certain places. He was telling me he was in a car with 12 other people evading the police officers in some South American country.
Okay.
So I don't knock the journey to get here, but there's a reason why people are going through that journey to get here, because they can. And I look at the system now, not just as in 2020 election, 2022 election. I'm looking at the whole system from 2000 to now, and the pattern is there. This is not an issue. None of the issues, quite frankly, are issues that politicians really want to solve. Because Mike said this all the time. He says this all the time. There's no win in a solution in Washington, D.C. And the only way to change that is if we change. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
And I think that not buying into stereotypes, I think, is a huge, huge deal. And I'm talking about political and ideological. Politically, there we go. Ideologically motivated. I'm just going to run with it. Ideas in these stereotypes. And let me tell you what I mean by this. So Rob just mentioned 2 presidents. When you think about basically kicking them out has become a Republican stereotype. If you're a Republican, you're against migration, you're against immigration, and you just want to kick them all out. I think probably the most respected Republican leader we've had in our lifetime is Ronald Reagan. Did Ronald Reagan kick them all out? No. Ronald Reagan actually gave amnesty. So wait a second. Whoa. The big Republican chief himself. Wait a second. The guy that they all hail the great Reagan, they gave amnesty? And then what about that? Obama, I'm going to secure the border. That's right. Can't have them just coming in here all willy-nilly. La Raza actually dubbed him the deporter in chief. He deported everyone. So actually, and he still was not good for border security, but at the same time, I mean, obviously, in his 3rd term here is Joe Biden. He's the worst when it comes to border security. He got what he wanted. He let someone else take the fall for it. But stop buying into these stereotypes. Again, because I thought Kyrsten Sinema was going to look at this piece of legislation and laugh it off the table. I thought there's no way she was going to line up with Chuck Schumer unless she's just trying to get ready for the election. And if that's the case, again, going to what Rob just said, say, hey, look, they're there for themselves. They're here for themselves. They're here for border security. If border security was fixed, how in the world can any Republican say, hey, this is an invasion? Donate to my campaign, and I'm going to take on the Biden administration. We're going to go ahead and secure that border, build the wall. And then the Democrats saying the Republicans just want to ship everyone out of here. Separate mommies and their children. Go ahead and donate to my campaign, and I'll stop these evil Republicans. You see, if the problem's fixed, these bozos don't have any way to ask you for more money. They don't have a problem. They don't have a solution. They don't want one. They want their solution is you donating to their campaign so you can what? So they can be reelected. Now, what do we do about that? Okay. Again, how is this migration impacting me and my economy? How is this immigration impacting the security of my neighborhood? How is this immigration impacting? Just keep going down the list and then start to check it off and boom. Okay. I got that fixed. I got that taken care of. I got that taken care of, that taken care of. And you right. Yeah, good. And then that's where the voting comes. You first, your tribe, and then the vote.
And I think when you go back and you think about the founding fathers and what they envisioned for this country, it was that we had the power. And I think we forget that because we see how Washington, presidents, Congress, courts, bureaucracies like the Department of Homeland Security, we've seen how they use power. They love it when we forget that the power is derived from us. So they set up this nice little system, and it's an economy. Let's just call it what it is. The media is an economy about politics. And I don't know if it's because, Mike, we've had a lot of leisure time as we get more advanced as humans. Because, you think about like 100,000 years ago, there was no such thing as leisure time. People were sitting in the caves like, let's see what's on Netflix. So we've built our days so that we have extra time. And myself, Mike, you guys included, we spend some of our time caring about our country and our politics, but it's part of a media ecosystem, which is an economy. It's designed to do what? Make money. Same as politics, also designed to make money. So we have these two systems that one covers the other, and that becomes an entertainment sphere in a way. And when we're in that entertainment sphere, it's almost like we're disconnected from that reality of, wait a second, we did this. Because we can complain till we're blue in the face. 34 trillion in debt. How could those presidents do it? Who put them in there?
Rob.
Yeah. It's all our fault because we didn't say no. And I think that gets to this point, Mike, that I'm pretty sure America has just given up. I think waving the white flag, like, okay, we're kind of done here. We're almost apathetic about this country. And I don't mean us, but I mean collectively.
I don't know about giving up. I don't know if I'm going to go with that because I'm a We the People apologist, and this is it. I believe in the masses. I believe we have the numbers. I believe the 80% in the middle where sanity lives, not the wackos on the left and right and the 10% on each side. Talking about the 80% in the middle where we the people can have a discussion. I don't think giving up. I think taking a breath. I would say since the Obama days, where it was, I remember it was Howard Dean was the head of the DNC when Obama was elected. And Howard Dean said, we are now starting the perpetual campaign. We will be in campaign mode as a Democrat Party forever, ever, in perpetuity. We're not stopping. And instead of giving up, I think, and I believe, at least, and I can speak for me in the last few weeks where Rob and I took a hiatus, was that you need a breather. You need to take a break. You need to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to take care of mine. And that's what I think the United States should do. I think we should hang a big old do not disturb sign on the Statue of Liberty and say, we're just going to take care of business here. We're going to go under new management, hopefully. And we will return when we fix our own, when we have, instead of NGOs, non-government organizations, getting billions of dollars through FEMA, the FEMA actually takes care of homeless veterans instead of that nonsense, right? So this is important to focus on, that we need to take care of our own. And it starts with this bill not giving $3 to every $1 for border security to Ukraine. And that's the kind of stuff we need to focus on when we actually take a breath, don't give up, just go a little slower. But that doesn't mean don't call your senators and don't call your representatives and tell them do not vote for this damn bill, period.
Deanna puts here in the chat, which you guys please comment, ask questions, whatever you got. Facebook is available for you for that. Say hi to my wife in the background, Mrs. Hunter. There she is.
Hi, yeah.
And YouTube as well. So the whole idea of what Deanna's saying is the same thing over and over again, expects different results. That's the definition of insanity, which is so apropos, because I think we still hope, Mike, and I think that optimism is built into us as Americans, that we still hope that someone is going to change this system. But the key is someone. It's going to take more than someone. Even if you think one of the candidates running for president in 2024 is the person to change the system, it's not that simple, because it takes a group effort. There are big systems in play, big processes in play, big money that goes back and forth. Changing all of that is very difficult. It's not just going to be, I voted, the system changed, the border secure, the Ukraine war is over. And another side note about that, it's been just about 2 years, right? Like this week or later this month or whatever. Or is it 3 years? I don't know. It's 2 years or 3 years worth of war at this point.
Exactly our point.
With no end in sight, right? To Deanna's point, it's like, what are we actually funding in Ukraine? What is going on there? Is it just a stalemate? So we're funding death and destruction of property, loss of life, war-torn countries, people that are forever going to be changed with PTSD and war injuries. What actually are we paying for there? And then the same thing, funding Israel, which the Democrats want to bury because most of their party doesn't like Israel. So they're including that in this border bill to hide that too, to say, no, we don't support Israel.
Yeah, we support border security. Wink, wink. Zelensky can kick rocks, but here's $60 billion in border security. What border are you trying to secure, dude? You're not securing this one by any stretch of the imagination. No. But that, I mean, it is a good point. I understand that. And that's one of the reasons why I have my money right now as it stands. If I was a Vegas odd maker, I'd say Trump to win. Easy. And the reason why is just because of what you said. There's no one person that's going to fix this at all. There's not one Congress that's going to fix the system itself. But what we need at this point is to fix the bleeding. And if at least we can have the option, if you choose to vote for someone that actually has a record of success. And the numbers are the numbers.
Here's my resume. Greatest resume ever. It's paper. I own the paper company. Okay. Here's the greatest resume of history.
And if that's that, if you look at numbers and numbers alone, aside from spending, I'm coming with you. I know Rob was about to jump all over me and talk about spending. I get it. Aside from spending, and that's the biggest slight I can throw at the mean orange man is the rampant spending. So, but if we're looking for something, a solution to stop the bleeding, not change the entire system and fix the system, because that's going to take decades. What would in please, I hope it does. I not take decades, but I hope it gets fixed, the system, and more in line with what the founding fathers thought. I would say that the bleeding can stop with at least somebody that has a resume of doing that and showing the numbers, including energy independence and $1.80 gas.
Right. And you know, this is the trick, right? Because you look back and you go, wow, my quality of life was better 4 years ago than it is now.
True.
I could go to the grocery store for a lot less money than I do now. Fill up my gas tank. So there is this hearkening to want to go back to those days. But the question always is, when you're thinking about the past, can you go back to the past? What's the pathway to get back to those prices? I don't know the answer to that, quite honestly. And I don't know if I should expect that, because, you know, it's like expecting something in my own past to change. So this is where I think it gets really tricky as far as the future, the vision of America, that I would like politicians to explain what their vision of America is over the next 4, 8, 12, 2 decades. Because that's where, going back to Reagan, you brought him up, Mike, before. That was his big thing. Morning in America, you get this big vision of what we can all accomplish. And that was just so uplifting, right? That we don't live in that time. We live in, it's a much darker time. The language on social media is darker. The political coverage is darker. I mean, we already know how the media covers Donald Trump and how they avoid covering Joe Biden. But our media, our side, is covering Joe Biden the same way the main media is covering Donald Trump. So there is no real room for that optimism. And I think that part is where it gets really discouraging for me. So I withdraw more. But I'll use this example. So obviously, Mike and I have made a big life change. And with that life change on my end, it was a different level of money. So I was making a certain amount of money at the last gig, decided to come out on my own, and there's not as much money coming in. So I had to cut things. I had to limit my food budget, going out to eat. Can't do it as often as I used to do. All right, no big deal. America needs to do that too. We just don't want to, because there's always someone on the receiving end of the check that doesn't want to get rid of the check. And that person
You mean the American government?
Well,
when you say America.
The American government. Yeah, but I mean, even still, I actually think that the American government by far benefits more middle class and upper middle class people than it does poor people. So we've shifted around where they take our money and where it goes towards, and nobody wants to give that up. So it's just like if you have a job and you get paid a certain amount of money and you change careers, you don't have as much money coming in the short term, you still want to live the same way, and you're just going to pile up credit card debt. So that when you do start making that extra money, you're still behind because you have so much debt.
Right. Anybody right now is everybody. Yep. You, Rob, me, everybody. I don't care how much you said wages have gone up. My tuchus they have. By the way, let's talk about wages gone up real quick. UPS. Did you see this? This is wild to me. UPS, their drivers are making some absurd, like $150K. It's wild. And we didn't hear anything about it because the threatened strike by the UPS union would have made the Biden administration look so bad, because it would have cut supply chain. It would have just hamstrung. Little Secretary Mayor Pete wouldn't know what to do with himself at that point. So they said, give the drivers everything they want. 100-something thousand. Did you hear the announcement last week? UPS to lay off 12,000 people.
Oops.
12,000 people now without a job. Because, oh, hey, wages are up. Check out UPS. Look what they're doing. That's right. That's the right thing to do, is to pay your employees more. We're going to give them some more money. Okay, well, 12,000 people got to go now. Got to dip. So it I mean, they have consequences to that. So when you talk about, people making money, wages going up, fact is all of us are 18 to 20% poor. Sorry, we have to pay $1.18 to $1.20 more. I mean, 18 to 20 cents more for everything a dollar bought us 3 years ago. So again, when it comes down to the election, where my money is, whether I vote for the man or not, doesn't matter. Odds are America's going to vote with their wallets and go, I just can't do this anymore. It was better 3.5 years ago, period. You think, okay, fine. The guy's a jerk. Whatever he says this, I saw his tweet. It made me mad. It offended 1% of the population. Oh, he's disqualified. No, the numbers are the numbers, and that's basically where we are. And speaking of offending people, by the way, thanks for hanging out with us. This is Russell and Hunter's the Brewmance, and we're so glad to be back with you and to be hanging out with you tonight. And we're going to do this every Monday at 4, and Friday we're going to get the nooner. Everybody needs a nooner on Fridays, and kick you off right into happy hour with all the knowledge you need to go to the weekend, and just entertain you in the middle of the day and have some fun as well. And then we're going to expand that as well. So thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you for following along. Please get over to YouTube. If you're following us on YouTube, please subscribe and follow along with us, and please jump in the chat, comment any way that you want. Let's not hurt some feelings, Rob. I don't like hurting feelings. I'm going to go to Penn State. I'm going to go to Penn State. You know why? I'm going to go to Penn State because, by God, they finally did it. They got rid of those hurtful words like freshman. These male-centric terms like sophomore.
Sophomore?
These male-centric terms like senior. I can't deal. But they've gotten rid of them, so I'm going to go now. The constant change of our vocabulary just to not offend a certain group of people that just, doggone it, look for everything in the world to be offended by. And they are now freshman is going to be replaced by first year, sophomore, second year, third year, fourth year, etc. But if you're like most American college students, do we get to a seventh year? What do you call a seventh year? Eighth year? Yeah, some call them doctors, but most just trying to get through school and partying 4 days a week.
This is exactly what I think the major challenge is. When we were doing Russell and Hunter, Mike and I came up with this theory that the difference in America right now is vastly different belief systems about what America is. So we grew up, if I'm 45, Mike's got a couple of years on me. I'm not sure.
I'm 48.
Exactly
I'm proud of it.
Is. Yeah, see, no big deal.
Yeah, I'm proud.
Think about like 35-ish, 32-ish. People that are 35 or 32 and below started to get a different message about what America is. Started to focus on the dark side of America, really hone in on that. A friend of mine just went to Alcatraz, and they had an exhibit. Mike, you'll recognize this from the time we went to D.C., and that was all about how bad it was to put all people of color in jail, which fine. I'll make that case all day long. But everywhere you go, every museum, all up and down the mall in Washington, D.C., at all those Smithsonians, they have gone into this America sucks. Not proud to be an American. No, America's terrible. It's been terrible to black people. It's been terrible to women. It's been terrible to everybody, unless you look like Mike and me. That's the message everywhere. It goes against exactly what Mike and I are saying. And it seems that you're agreeing with us that I'm getting a leg cramp, by the way. This is what's great.
Okay. You all right there, buddy?
Woo. Yeah, I'm good. Oh, see, I'm just talking about my age and start getting a leg cramp.
I never want to hear you point out that I'm older than you ever again. Live on the show. Rob's cramping up. Rob pulled a hammy mid-show.
I did. From getting passionate talking about things.
Oh, okay. This is why I got my basic white guy cup. This is why I got my basic white guy 5-gallon cup. I'm hydrated.
Hippie.
Yeah, exactly.
Hydration system. Yeah, but the whole idea, we can't even discuss a word now because freshman has man in it. Sophomore somehow doesn't have man in it. Yet still an offensive
Can't say
word.
semen.
We want to be more inclusive. I went to a restaurant in Mesa the other day, a little sandwich shop in downtown Mesa. Nice little place.
Okay.
And they had to tell you that they had a gender neutral restroom. And Mike knows me better than anybody. Trans issues, you be you, man. That's what freedom is. I don't agree with it. It don't matter. unless you're going to run into my house and try to steal my stuff, I don't really care what you do because that's freedom. So
Dressed fabulously, though.
yeah, and that's, just mind your business. That's all. Shoot. But
Okay.
the fact that we can't even recognize, for all my LGBTQ plus friends out there, that restaurant is playing you just like politicians play us. They're like, look at us. We care so much. We put the words gender neutral there instead of just being restroom. It's a restroom anyone can use.
Yeah.
Nope. We had to highlight the fact that we're cool and we're down because, again, the age and the different belief system, 32, 35 and below, believe America's bad, but also believe words are violence. So we're going away, far away from this individual responsibility that you're only in control of your own life. And we're moving into this atmosphere. No. We'll just talk about how bad America is all the time. And then we'll just erase every word that says man in it. And we've solved all of society's problems.
Except men just won't go away. We're not going away. I don't care how many men you pull out of anything. Suffix, prefix, don't care. We're not going away. And by the way, I'm not changing as a man. I'm not going to change as a man. It took me 48 years to get this way. It's going to get 48 years to get me unstuck. And I'm okay with that because I'm not ashamed of who I am. I'm not. But it's difficult. It's difficult to navigate without eye rolling. If eye rolling were an Olympic sport, I'm telling you, the last 4 years have turned me into an Olympian because I roll my eyes at this virtue signaling. The virtue signaling that Rob's talking about the sandwich shop is that's all it is. It's just virtue signaling. It's just the bathroom's a bathroom. It's got a toilet in it. Cool. There's nothing special. There's no, if you say ADA compliant, okay, rock on. I'm down with that. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. That lets people in wheelchair, somebody cares about me. I'm down with that. Cause I can go in here and there's going to be a toilet that I can use in a wheelchair. Right. Not in the wheelchair. I know how it works, but there's no need for virtue signaling for a group of people that are you ready for this? And I'm going to say this. I want you to understand this is all it is. Virtue signaling is fear. You're afraid of a group, period. You're afraid that a group is going to come into your sandwich shop in Mesa, Arizona and say they don't have specifically gender neutral or at least marked gender neutral bathrooms. They must be homophobic. They must be transphobic. That's fear. So they virtue signal like, do you see the sign? Do you see the sign? Just sign back there. Our bathrooms say gender neutral. That's right, because we're down with the cause. You're not down with the cause. You're afraid. You're afraid your business is going to get attacked. Period. And I like Rob's solution there. Just put bathroom.
Yeah, I mean,
or restroom is better, more amply served. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. It's just, and again, I try not to judge. I'm working on my judgment. I'm working on it because I realize
I've been working on mine.
On the
I'm a
opposite
pro.
way.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm like Jedi level judge.
Yeah. I'm working on trying not, right? Because we instantly have them and it's like looking past them and trying not to do it. But I think that just gets back to the point I want to bring up that Frank. And again, thank you guys for being here. Thank you. So again, reminding you, if you're just joining us, Mike and Rob back at it. Mondays at 4 live right here on Facebook or YouTube. Fridays at noon, same places. So Frank writes, and this is great too, because you guys can interact with us very easily, that his daughter went to school in Peoria. He's 25. Can't have a conversation because everything's racist or Trump is the devil.
Yeah.
I'm better looking, much better looking than the devil.
And it's hard to be able to navigate this because we all have these opinions and we all feel and think a certain way. And then there's a whole group of people that don't. How do you do this? And this is where your communication tactics can come into play. So I listen a ton, more than I offer opinions. I ask questions. I found common ground. And this is what I think even Frank, your 25-year-old daughter would agree. Because I have some younger friends that are under 30, right around 30 in that ballpark. And they don't vote the same way that I do. They are in this younger demographic, but we all kind of agree that what's going on in Washington, even in Phoenix or local lawmakers, just isn't working. So we have universal agreement that this system is only serving the interests of the system. In other words, who makes money, who gets government contracts, they're benefiting from this. So even though we might say, okay, freshman's bad at Penn State, sophomore's bad at Penn State, those people that think freshman is bad still think American government stinks. So there is some common ground here.
What do you want to say, fresh girl? That's not okay. That's going to give everyone the wrong impression. Yeah, fresh girl. Yeah, we have a whole group of fresh girls over here. It doesn't work. Freshman is fine. Fresh woman sounds weird. Just okay. Just not. And again, this is Penn State virtue signal. By the way, this is Penn State that covered up a child molestation, a child molester in their football program. Covered it up. And now, oh, no, just we rarely talk about that. Did you hear we changed the word freshman to first year? Because that's offending people. No, covering up child molestation is offending people. Okay, Penn State, just kick rocks, go. You need to be out of this virtue signaling world. The fact that people even still watch those games and they have any sports program at all absolutely blows me away. But as a dad, I'm agreeing with what Rob said. And I think it was Frank that was saying this. As a dad, what do I say? I had to explain to my kids that I am not racist because I'm can I use the term? Should I use the term? Should I be politically correct here? A cisgendered white male. I'm a straight white dude. And that they are taught is bad. Just being a straight white male, es no bueno in today's education system. It really is a bad thing. And anything that I would say that just seemed a little bit off, Dad, you can't say that. That's racist. I had to explain, and I hope we can just move forward as a society, because again, the 80% of we the people, we all get this. There is racism. Racism is not going to go away, by the way. And Rob has traveled a good portion of the world. Rob will admit to you, and I hope Rob would admit to you, America is not the most racist country there is. I don't even know if we're in the top 10. So, but there is racism here, and there's always going to be racism. You cannot erase racism. It won't happen. But there's racial insensitivity. And I had to explain to my kids, I'm racially insensitive because I'm racially insensitive about every type of stereotype you can have over a straight white dude. I'm not sensitive to it. You know what? I'm German, for the love of grief. Do you know how many jokes there are about my people? Come on. A certain portion of history, rightfully so. Okay. But you understand, none of it is, I'm not sensitive to it. And when we have, and I think Robbie, come with me as well on this one. When we have probably the wisest, most entertaining, most creative, most talented people amongst us, our current crop of comedians, and our past crop of comedians that point out all of our flaws in a funny way and make fun of essentially everyone in a funny way. When we're trying to tear them down because they're not falling in line with this new ideology, as a matter of fact, they're making fun of this new ideology, we're hosed. Because look at what we grew up with. Sam Kinison, George Carlin, Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor. Nothing offends us. Freshman doesn't offend us. Little words don't offend us. You calling me a white name doesn't offend me, because I grew up with some of the most outlandish, hilarious, brilliant, genius minds there are as narrators, of our youth. But now we got to take them out. This Dave Chappelle guy, man, I tell you what, he said something that might have offended somebody. J.K. Rowling said, there's only two genders. Take her out. But I'm going to go watch every Harry Potter movie on this weekend because it's a rainy weekend. I'm going to watch every movie. But J.K. Rowling is bad, though, because she said there's only two genders. It's Penn State kick rocks. That's my long version of saying Penn State kick rocks.
Yeah, that's a good thing. But I do always wonder where the reality is. Because in a media economy, if you pay attention to it, and we all have phones, so we all have some level of exposure to it. It seems to me, in my what? October, November, December, January. In my 4.5 months away from a talk radio station, I've had way less conversations about offensive words, about gender. I've had way less conversations about the border. I know the problem's still happening, but there is real life still happening also that doesn't involve politics. And it's going to be very challenging because freedom always is a slippery slope towards tyranny. Just is. It's almost an unnatural state for us to be completely self-reliant, to be able to manage your own life. So as we get more, what do I want to say, Mike? We have a more convenient way of living. It's not as much of a struggle as it used to be. We seemingly in our minds make things up to fight about because the old survival skills that we used to have in order to live a day, like if you made it through a day back then, like 20,000, 100,000 years ago, you're like, whew, man, that was tough. And I got to go out and do it again. I got to go find another bison to hunt. I got to go walk the forest and see if I can find any berries and nuts. You know, you had to like live all day. So now they're like, all right, I go to work, I get some money, I have my basic needs covered, I got my shelter, I got my food. Now what? Freshman's bad. But it isn't just the young kids either. Mike, you know exactly who I'm talking about here. There is a guy who lives here in the Valley. He is a sales guy, got a big social media presence, always talking about his haters. I'm like, bruh, you really worried about your haters? You talk about them a lot. Because if you're taking your attention off of what you can control, your own opinion of yourself, you're in a way better position than you are about some random person on Instagram calling you a name.
I'm going to talk about, and it kind of ties back into what we were saying a little earlier, is that, and thanks for being with us. He's Rob. I'm Mike. Appreciate it. It says his name right there in their names. How about that? We're going streaming. Yeah, no more radio retreads. If you're tired of radio retreads, just go back to the next generation. Let's go to streaming because that's where it's all going. So Rob and I are going there, and this is where we want to hang out with you. So we appreciate you being here with us. We're going to do this every Monday at 4, and then Friday we're going to give you a nooner, and then we'll kind of fill in the gaps through the week as we go along. So I think that, and I apologize. After 2 brain surgeries, it's hard for me to remember names sometimes. Rob will back me on that. The quote, basically the natural trajectory of any man in power is tyranny. Let's think about that. It's who we are as a species. And when we say man, I'm sorry, Penn State, I don't mean to offend you. The humans in power is tyranny. Now, where we've made a mistake, I think, and hopefully we can start preaching the good word of pulling out of this, is we've put our faith in those men in power, that they're going to save the day, that they're going to help us as they just march on their way to grabbing up more power and more money and more resources and more control. They just keep gobbling it up. Where it's like, they're going to come along and fix it. They're going to save the day. No, they're not. As a matter of fact, they'll only tell you that every 2 years if they're a representative, every 6 years if they're a senator, every 4 if they're a president. That's it. They'll tell you they're going to save the day. Other than that, they're just marching along their path to control power and the T word of tyranny.
100%. And it's going back to communities. That really is where the difference is going to make. The communities that you're in, the communities that you hang out with, the people that you know, because I just have the opinion that's not going to miraculously fix itself, no matter who the president of the United States is. No matter who the congressman that you vote for is, because there's 434 other ones. The senators that you vote for, there's still 98 other ones. So that it's a big system, and it's designed to be a big system that moves slowly. It's not designed to be changed quickly. I mean, even if you go back to the 4 years of Donald Trump, the federal government
the greatest years in history of the United States of America. Okay.
Changed a little bit, but not a lot, because the system is so big. So the only way it changes is if we can convince people to be more self-reliant, that we can convince companies that it's in the best interest of the country, not your company, to maybe take a little less of the government handout. That if you're of a certain wealth, maybe you don't need all your Social Security, because that's going to happen whether we choose to do it or it's forced upon us, because it's one or the other. And if it's forced upon us, all we're going to do is, oh my God, the government failed. But see, that's, I think, is the big problem, is that we always think it's somebody else's fault, somebody we didn't vote for, some other president, some other party, instead of saying, what was my role in that? Did I do enough? Did I do enough? Remember JFK? The whole, you do for your country. I always screw up the line. So, Mike,
I thought you were going to go with I thought you were going to ask not what you can do. Ask not what your country can do for you, what you can do for your country. But you usually do it in the voice.
For your country. In the Boston. Yes. Right. But that's it, right? That JFK attitude, and I'll even add JFK's moon speech into it. He's like, we choose to do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. We gotta choose the hard choices, right? Rob and Mike, this is not the easiest path for us to do, to build, to do this with you. There are many other easier paths for us, where there's a salary, where there's a platform.
Don't get me started on benefits and insurance. Don't get me started on insurance. We'll save it till maybe the noon.
I love that.
Yeah.
But this whole idea that we have to really compel other humans in America to value their own freedom and realize, Rob's Mayor Quimbley, says Dell.
Wow. That sounds just like him. That's perfect. Thanks, Del. I love that. I appreciate that.
There, Del. Yeah, that was good. But I think
go ahead.
Yeah, it's like, you know me. I always have one of these. Carrying it around. That's what it stands for. My ability to live my life the way that I want, and encouraging other people to do that, rather than I need help, or the government has to do this or take care of this, or
I got to tell you, and it's a beautiful segue, because I got a little bit of a history lesson, and I'll tell you, I fell into this problem here, is what Rob was just kind of pointing out, is I thought they can't do that. Come on, the government can't do that legally. And I think I catch myself thinking that, and I'm like, oh, you know what? They probably worked it out so they could. Insider trading, Nancy Pelosi. Yeah. You. By the way, both sides, Republican and Democrat. You want to see where the crooks are? Just look at their net worth when they went into office, and when just now. How about that? I don't care if they're. Oh, we can't call them freshmen anymore. Okay. Anyway, they're new senators, representatives. Can't say freshman senator anymore. Good grief. I wonder if we can say junior congressman, junior senator, senior senator. Senior's not even a thing anymore. Multiple term, tenured. Oh, forget about it. Anyway, I thought, how can they do this?
Be like a horrible thing. How long have you been there? What are your results? None. Okay, you're fired.
Yeah, no results, but you made a lot of money. No results, but doggone it, you went from being worth $1 million to being worth $42 million, and no results. Congratulations. But how can they change the rules? How can they do these things? And how can, like, the likes of Karine Jean-Pierre, how can the Biden White House say that our economy, Bidenomics, is working? Well, if you're looking to tear down our economy, it's working swimmingly. But to advertise it as people are making more money, that we're better off, that I love it that they say inflation is coming down. I love that. They're saying the prices are more affordable. They're saying that our groceries are more affordable. It's all a bunch of nonsense. So I fell into this gap. Fell into this problem on how can they constantly lie? And I found out, Rob, I did. Back in the 1940s, we were really, really good as a nation as sending out some flyers, if you will, to other countries saying, "Hey, the shining light on the top of the hill, it's America. We're here to save the day. Team America, blank, coming again to save the day." Right? We sent out propaganda. We're sending out propaganda to developing nations that we are it. And by the way, we were correct in saying that, but this was it was textbook propaganda. And to excite our allies, and basically a big rah-rah speech for rallying behind the new kid on the block, which was the United States of America. And so, and after our revolution, our industrial revolution, we got this, come on, all the propaganda. Two elected officials, Smith and Munt, known as the Smith-Munt Act, was signed by President, help me out there, buddy, 44, is this Truman?
Truman.
Who are we at? Truman, thank you. Signed by President Truman. And this said, essentially, hey, the propaganda that we're sending out to the world, we can't use on we the people. We're not allowed to use on We the People. We shouldn't be able to use on We the People. Essentially, we cannot, as Washington, as an elected body, we cannot use propaganda to make ourselves look better. To basically to appease the people. It's okay, you plebes, you unwashed masses. We're doing great up here in Washington D.C. and we're helping you, and your life's better. Doesn't feel that way, but your life's better. They said back in the Smith-Mundt Act and President Truman, nope, can't do that to We the People. We have to be straight with them, as Joe Biden famously says, as he's lying, gonna shoot you from the shoulder. Yeah, no, they're not, because. Back in 2014, let's go ahead and do the presidential math on that. That's right. That was me. That was Obama. How you doing? How you doing, everybody? Welcome. Stay tuned for Michelle. You know what I mean? We'll get to that later.
I'll even show you the headline. Here it is.
What? U.S. repeals propaganda ban. There it is right there. Boom. Yeah. How about that? That President Obama repealed the ban on propagandizing the U.S. citizenry. Now let's not just throw stones at the Democrats here, because who was in power? That would be Speaker Boehner. This is the Boehner, Pelosi, McConnell, Reed days. Remember Leader Reed? How he fell off
airport
of his,
named after him in Vegas.
But did they change the name of McCarran Airport?
Yeah, it's now the Harry Reid International Airport.
Yeah. Okay. You mean the guy who fell on a treadmill? Look, I've fallen off of exercise equipment before. Exercise equipment doesn't punch like that. No, the mob does. Anyway, moving on. So that was back in the Reid McConnell days. And they basically got together, the powers that be. Remember, the trajectory of any man in power is, especially unchecked, is tyranny. So these bozos, these slappies decide, oh, well, we want to be able to lie to our people and get away with it. We want to be able to tell them how great we are and how wonderful we're doing, when all of the stats, facts, and how we the people feel don't agree with it. It was the Obama administration that signed it. President Obama's ink is on that. His signature, his auto pen, let's be real, is on that, saying that we can lie to our people. We repealed the Smith-Mundt Act.
And you think about the timing of that. 48, when it was signed, end of World War II. World War II is all kinds of propaganda about not only the United States war efforts, but everywhere around the world did it. Britain did it. The Nazis did it. So there was, in that moment in time, a real good reason to say that the government cannot do that. But see, this is interesting, because despite the fact that that law was in place until 2013, 2014, let's rewind the clock to 2003, shall we?
Okay.
This guy right here, young broadcaster, talking about the post 9/11 world. Start seeing information that a certain country, Iraq, has weapons of mass destruction. So as a young broadcaster, I'm thinking the United States government wouldn't want to lie to get us into a war, would they?
No.
They wouldn't send American soldiers off to war without concrete proof. So they hand down the proof. Colin Powell goes to the United Nations, if you remember it. There's the weapons of mass destruction. Here's the intelligence. And the whole world's like, oh, my goodness. Saddam Hussein, the dictator of Iraq, is going to kill everybody. So we go get them. And we go look for those weapons of mass destruction. There's no weapons of mass destruction. And you probably met a veteran or two, maybe that served in Iraq. The ones that did that house-to-house fighting, that were in Fallujah, cities like that, they're all different. Every one of them. Because ground operations change you. And I remember advocating that war and supporting that war, as did most of Americans, including the current president, Joseph Robinette Biden. He voted for it. And I remember when I kept looking for evidence of weapons of mass destruction, and I looked everywhere. That was back in the day, Mike, when you could actually use the internet and get facts, not whatever Google gives you now.
I thought we had to go back to microfiche.
Yeah. And I mean, I probably did some of that too. I was reading books, anything I could find, nothing. And then I realized, despite this act, what is it called again? The
Smith-Mundt Act, M-U-N-D-T.
Which doesn't allow the United States government to give you propaganda. I was propagandized. So much so that I believed it, because in a post 9/11 world, the fear brain took over, like, I don't want to see another plane fly into a building in America. I don't want a dirty bomb to go off. Yeah, go bomb a country. Who cares? Now I look back at it. I was used. You were lied to. So from that moment on is really when I stopped trusting the government. And then where's our buddy Slavo?
Oh, there you go.
So here's a book
for
you.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Then you realize,
yeah.
The government's been doing it the whole time. Like Slavo gave us the book. He said, get this book. I'm 58 pages in. It's all about the FBI's constitutional abuses. And I was so pissed off, I had to put the book down. I'm like, I can only read it a little bit at a time. So then I really started to get to this point we're talking about today, Mike, is government ain't my friend. They're going to lie, cheat, and steal to get what they want. They are as bad as any crooked business owner. All of them for years, regardless of party at this point. Terrible.
So that's what I think that's the easiest way that change happens in this country is eliminating government wouldn't allow that to happen. I'm being serious. It sounds funny, but I mean, there's times where after 15, 16 years of just drudging through a lot of this garbage, is that, come on, the government's got us on that one, right? I mean, don't they? No.
Yeah.
The government wouldn't allow that to happen. The FBI wouldn't do that. Yeah. I mean, are we still looking cross? We're still looking down our noses at Edward Snowden? Are we? Or are we going, that guy, okay, by hook or crook, taught us a lot about our government and what our government was doing to us unconstitutionally. And if we eliminate, as a we the people, if we eliminate I think government's got our back on this. I think we're all right. I mean, look at Social Security right now. Let's be real. Let's talk like grown-ups. Social Security ain't going to be around. You and I, who have paid into it for a very long time, a good amount of money, we will not see the benefits of that unless major unelectable changes are made. And I think that's the caveat, right? There's changes that can be made. Nobody can run for office on making those changes. They just can't. Because no, you're not taking away my stuff. Well, okay. I don't want to take away anyone's Social Security. Hell, I don't want to take away mine. But we have to talk like grown-ups on this. That the government completely screwed that up. They ran a Ponzi scheme and it didn't work because it was run by the government. I would bring Bernie Madoff in just to fix Social Security because it is exactly what he was doing that he went to prison for. Is Bernie still alive? Is Madoff still alive?
I think he died. I think, yeah.
All right.
I have to confirm that. But I think it was, well, I got away with it for a long time. I'm going to live 90 days in jail and I'm dead. What a shame.
Yeah, okay, well, whatever. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Did he Epstein himself? Anyway, let's move on.
Natural causes.
I'll say that.
I think, yeah. It's just such an important point, right? In getting back, I've really rethought, Mike, for a long time, what I think of freedom. When I think of freedom, I used to think about the Declaration and the Constitution all the time. And we are supposed to be free from our government. But then I started to think about it a different way in terms of individuality. Reuben Hurricane Carter. I don't know if you've ever heard of that guy. He was a boxer in the 50s, I think, 50s and 60s. My dates might be wrong. But he was sentenced to jail for a triple homicide he did not commit. And he said, all right, I got to go to jail. They found me guilty. This is some BS, but I can't do anything about that. So he said, the one thing that they cannot take from me in this prison, even though I'm wrongfully convicted, is my mind. So he didn't wear his prison uniform. He didn't have things in his cell phone. He just rebelled against the whole thing because he said, if I give you that, you win. So eventually, after 19 years, Mr. Hurricane Carter gets out of prison because they're like, oh, sorry, man, you didn't do that. But he didn't go gripe. Yeah. He didn't go file lawsuits. He just went to work with people who had a very similar situation, help them rehab. So there's that extreme example is that point of where you can be. Like, I hope I never end up in prison, especially if I'm wrongfully convicted. And I hope
My
I'm
biggest
strong
fear.
enough mentally to be like Reuben Hurricane Carter. But in learning about stories like that, my individual freedom is of the utmost importance, as is yours, Mike, as is yours, Kathy, Mike. Good to see you guys as well. Lynn, what's happening? Brian, what's going on? Brian, to answer your question, you guys can chat anytime you want. Throw it up in the chat.
Yeah,
We
jump
can
in.
see it right here. So Brian
Well,
asked
he
if we were
says
to
we
put this
can
whole
see it.
thing.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
says we can see it.
see
I have to
and
wear
we will
glasses.
post
I
this as
can.
a
I have to go like
podcast.
this.
It's true. That's those 3 extra years, buddy. That's what I got
Thanks,
right there. I
pal.
don't need
Oh
those
my
yet. 3
gosh,
more
I
years.
can't
We'll
see
see.
squat. Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
Continue.
But Brian, yes, this will all be available for you as a podcast as well. It'll be on the Brewmance podcast. So go find that if you haven't already. Subscribe to that. And really, I would love to hear from you guys. Deanna, Brian, Lynn, Kathy, Mike. How do you look at freedom? And how do you define it? Because I start with me. And I would advocate everybody start with themselves, because if you can get people to understand that self-freedom, while difficult to attain, it will help us collectively understand how to change this country for the better, I think.
I agree with it. And that's by the way, I don't know what's actually, I know Rob's biggest fear. Rob and I've been hanging out 16 years. I do know Rob's biggest fear, and I've driven with him, so it seems like the most irrational damn thing in the world. But his biggest fear, tell me if I'm wrong, is getting in a car accident.
Yeah, huge fear.
Right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So my biggest fear is being incarcerated or put to death or sentenced to death for something I didn't do. It's my biggest fear. And I mean, even if I get into arguments, like I'm like, well, I'm being accused of something I didn't do. I hate being accused of something I didn't do. I can only imagine. I can't even imagine what it's like to have been the so many people that are wrongfully incarcerated, wrongfully sentenced, that just really didn't do anything. Thank God for DNA evidence. Thank God for advancements in society and basically our ways of thinking. But ironically, I am very pro death penalty. That's like Rob being afraid of getting in a car accident is his biggest fear, and he's against speed limits and against being in alcohol limits and speed limits. No, I've driven with you. You are definitely against speed limits. That's for darn sure.
Yep.
But I mean, for everybody else
Suggestions.
around you, yeah, everyone. It's just a suggestion. We'll get our buddy, we'll get Frank on here Fridays with Frank, and we'll talk about the suggestion. But that's the thing to me is that when you get into like what Rob was mentioning about you and changing you and talking about you is find out like where your inconsistencies are. Where are your inconsistencies in this? But I trust me. I am a lifetime member of the NRA. Do I just buy into everything that the NRA believes and stands for and does? Heck no. I know that there's inconsistencies there, that they're inconsistency with my beliefs, but I'm a lifetime member. I'm a registered Republican. Do I back everything the Republican Party does?
No.
So those are the inconsistencies that when we just start to realize and wake up to in our own world, I think either A, we can tolerate other people's inconsistencies. Like I said, judgment is one of my superpowers. We can actually accept their inconsistencies, and then we can have a discussion once we realize, you know what, I'm kind of inconsistent too. So I want to allow Rob to be inconsistent as well. I think I have in 16 years, have I?
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, I'm as inconsistent as anybody. So I'll give you a perfect example. Well, yeah. So in mine, everybody, we all have a belief system in our heads that we might not even know about. So I had 2 different belief systems. One was about my career. So when I figured out that I wanted to be a radio show host, I didn't question it. I didn't doubt it. I just did it. I did whatever it took. I worked my butt off, rose the ranks, got a shot at 25. That shot went away at 27. Hurricane Katrina happened. And then I had to scratch and claw really to get back to the Russell and Hunter portion, which is what I was looking for, that opportunity. So about a week before the pandemic, Mike and I get that opportunity. But from 27 to 41 or something like that, it was do whatever you have to do. But I still believed and I never doubted. Meanwhile, in my personal life, I had a different set of beliefs and I kept making stupid decisions that would almost ruin my life. And I would keep making those decisions. And I never even knew that there was a possible way to stop making those decisions until I started to learn a little bit more. And I started to understand beliefs, and I started to understand fear, and I started to understand exactly what I was doing. Then I could finally make a change and break that pattern. America's in that pattern right now. We've got a good system. America's badass. We do great at a lot of things. It affords you the most opportunities in the world. But at the same time, we got some bad patterns that we have to figure out how to break, because we have a weird belief system in this country or something that keeps us doing the same thing over and over again. And Mike, I'll say this. You and I love talking about history. We love historical facts. What's the point of learning history, though, if you're not going to apply the lessons? Otherwise, we're just learning it to memorize dates and this happened in the Civil War. I'm like, okay,
Sounds
what
smart.
are we learning from the Civil War? How not to do that again? Because let's go back to the original topic we talked about at the border. Texas is not standing by while the federal government's like, yeah, sorry, you can't patrol your own border. Like, first of all, it's our border, and we're not just going to stand by and let you guys run roughshod over us. So it's this really interesting time in America where we have all this history that we seem to be ignoring the lessons on. And here we arrive in 2024, like, what should we do, guys?
Actually, a friend of mine did ask, a very liberal friend of mine did ask, and it was a very somber ask. Do you think we're going to see the guns? Do you think we in our lifetime is going to see this country rise up against this country? Do you think we're going to be that separated? I'll give you my answer. I gave him. I said yes. Because if we stay on this trajectory, we stay on this path, I think yes. I don't mean to bring the mood of the room down. I'm not really not trying to do that. I just very proud to be on the side that knows how to use guns. Anyway, we'll move on. Texas, I was very proud of. Texas, watching what happened in Texas, and if you guys didn't hear about it, Governor Abbott was using razor wire and other deterrents to protect his border. For the love of grief, that's his job as the governor. I believe it's actually part of his little swearing in speech that he's going to protect his great state, and he has been. The Biden administration has not liked any of his antics, his tactics, because they wanted a wide open border. And for somebody to protect this nation's border, well, that just doesn't fall into line with what the Biden administration wants. Biden administration went to the Supreme Court and said, we need to tell these bozos out there in Texas that they need to just open up their border and let anyone come in. Well, the Supreme Court actually sided with the Biden administration. Thank you, Justice Barrett and Roberts. I'd really love to read your opinion, and I should. Now that we're back in the game, I really should read their opinions, because I'm blown away by this. The people, the great people of Texas, and I have been so impressed. Had enough. Like I think a lot of this country has had enough. Said, okay, we're going to jump on our John Deeres. We're going to jump on our tractors. We're going to get down to the border, and we're going to make sure that we secure the border. They can't tell us we can't have tractors at the border, can they? Because you see, if you're somebody coming across the Rio Grande there and you see a bunch of just the other side just lined with tractors and people sitting there staring at you, you probably want to find a new way in. So that's a deterrent, if anything else, and it's a peaceful deterrent. They weren't shooting. They weren't pointing guns. They were just acting as, well, we the people. They were acting as U.S. citizens, concerned for their state and their nation. And I applaud them for doing it. Me seeing that, it was magical. It was one of the most, I would say, belief and faith restoring actions I've seen by Americans in a very, very long time. It usually takes like a big event, like Rob said, like a Katrina, like the hurricane they had in Texas as well, and all of the outpouring, people just driving down with their boats and their RVs and bringing people in, saving people from houses. Usually takes something like that. But when you see this as a response to an act of government, well, I'm telling you that, again, that restores my faith, but it makes a lot of people scratch their head and go, uh-oh, something's brewing here. And I think Texas is doing the right. And by the way, Governor Abbott, even today, has told the administration, kick rocks, pound sand. We're not going to stop. You're going to have to come stop us. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going on. But go Texas. Good job.
Well, and imagine that you're in a relationship like that, and your significant other's like, I don't care. I'm like, you'd either figure out how to figure that out, that impasse, or you go your separate ways. Like, this is why this is so interesting, because using the Civil War and the lead up to the Civil War, different issues, different circumstances, but the divisions in America right now are very vivid, we can say. They're very explicit. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen by November of next year. I don't know what's going to happen in January of next year or November of this year, January of next year, when a new president is sworn in, Biden, Trump, maybe RFK Jr. All of this is it's a very strange time to be an adult in America, because if you're my age or Mike's age, in our 40s, we've never experienced anything like this. We're born during the Carter years. In the Carter years, we were kids. So we grew up in the Reagan times, Morning in America, right into H-Dub, right? Then we got 8 years of Clinton. And as far as the country goes, there was some crazy stuff, but it wasn't like terrible. It wasn't like divided. There was, Waco and certain things that the government did that I don't agree with.
Don't forget Monica Lewinsky. Don't forget Monica.
Exactly.
Right? Monica Lewinsky.
And
we survived. We survived the great blue dress scandal. We did.
I just somehow pictured Jeffrey Epstein's photograph painting of Bill Clinton in that blue dress.
Please, so if you have not seen it, if you want to really understand how just dialed in Clinton was with Jeffrey Epstein in that island, there quite literally is a picture of a portrait, a painting portrait, an oil on canvas portrait of Bill Clinton smoking a cigar in a blue and red pumps, laying in chair. There it is. Rob's throwing that out there right now. That is real. That exists. That is no joke. And here we did. We just went and we survived the great Lewinsky scandal. And so anyway,
we're all stronger and better because of it.
We survived Tanya Harding. Yeah, we survived.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good for us. Yeah.
But see, I think I'm going to even go back. So you mentioned the truckers, the trailers going to the border. So in 2007, at the very beginning, when we came on live, I mentioned that I went to the border for the first time in 2007. I was brand new to Arizona. I was here for like 4 months at this point. I had this great idea. I'm like, why don't we see what it's like to be an immigrant? So the show that I was working for at the time, we go down there. On the last day, we linked up with, I think they were called the Minutemen at the time, obviously sending homage to the founding fathers. So we go and we walk the desert with these guys. And we're out there walking, and it's May, so it's hot. So we're all sweating, and we're walking and walking and walking. We come across this little spot, and there's a guy sitting under a tree all by himself. He's just sitting there like,
that's not sitting there. He was,
he was dying, right?
Yeah.
He would have died if we hadn't happened to be there at that moment on that day. That is another part about this that gets lost in the mix is if you can't keep up when they sneak into the country, they'll leave you behind. So just because this group that got labeled all these names comes across this guy, they saved his life, right? We all collectively did. And there's something to be said for that this is not just as simple as humans coming here for a better life.
Oh, please.
On the surface level, that's what it looks like. But when they come here, and often it's not an easy life. You're taken advantage of either labor-wise. Like, for example, in New York, this was a few months ago, there were a bunch of those migrants that went up there that are living in the hotel, can't get jobs, so they start working for DoorDash, delivering food, but they got to rent a scooter, and they got to give a portion of their DoorDash earnings to someone else. So, like, 50% of their earnings are gone because people are taking advantage of them. That's the part as a human that drives me crazy, is that this is what we're actually allowing. And because we don't want to talk about it, it's easy to pretend that everything's fine and that there aren't 200,000 kids missing. Because the number Mike and I used to cite for you on the radio was 86,000. And that was like, I think from June of the first year of the Biden administration, maybe the second year.
Yeah. It's a couple 100,000. I mean, you remember, you go back in the day when this all started, when the Biden administration kicked in and they started filling up Long Beach Convention Center, Dallas Convention Center, full convention centers with kids, unaccompanied minors. What happened to them? That's a question to ask. Whether you're for open borders or not, or whether you think there's a problem at the southern border, there's a good portion of this country don't think there's a problem at the southern border. They think, oh, yes, they want amnesty. They're fleeing because of climate change, and they're fleeing because of a tyrannical government, and they're coming here. So they're fleeing and coming to the United States because they're promised a better opportunity and a better life. We should welcome them with open arms. Okay, if that's how you feel, fine. And by the way, I never have. In my 16 years on radio, I have never, ever slighted a true migrant from coming to the United States of America to seek a better life. Never. Because I know if I was in their shoes, I'd do the same. I'd do everything I could possibly do to get here. Because I'm being told this is the land of milk and honey. This is it. This is the last one. They're not fleeing to go to other countries. They're fleeing to come here. Because this is the most exceptional, greatest nation in the world, period. So I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying no one's asking the right questions. Even if you're a supporter of an open border system, what is happening to the children? Where are they going? We see these examples and we're like, oh, Kellogg's plant. That's just a one-off. No big deal. That isn't happening rampantly. What does the administration say? There's no evidence to say that this is a systemic problem with migration. As a matter of fact, there is. We can just look at it with our own eyes and see it. And that's where it should end. This is literally what it should end. Forget about what's happening to our economy because of the 9 million migrants that have come here seeking asylum. Forget about that. It should end when we say 200,000 children are missing. 200,000.
Shut it down. That's when you shut down the border.
Amen. I'm sorry, when 2,000. Done.
Yeah.
Shut it down.
Sorry, we lost 2,000 kids. Shut it down until we figure it out.
What's the point of critical mass? Where do we say, okay, enough is enough. We need to shut this down. Holy mackerel. We don't have the reins on this. We have zero control. We have zero visibility. We have zero eyes on this. And that is why I am proud of someone like Elon Musk, who's using the biggest bully pulpit in the world, Twitter. Now he owns it. Do what he wants to point out to millions on top of millions of users that this is really a problem. And someone as intelligent as Elon Musk to actually say the quiet part democratically, dude's a registered Democrat, to say it Democrat out loud, there's a reason why these people are being allowed here, and that is for a one-party system moving forward. Elon Musk claims that. Now, whether you believe it or not, I do, but whether you believe it or not, it at least give you a pause, like, hey, why is he saying that? Oh, he's saying that on Twitter, and that's a big deal. So just those two reasons alone should have you supporting, actually screaming to your representatives and your senators, please do not sign on to this immigration bill by the Senate. Please do not. Those two reasons alone, 200,000 kids missing. This does not address 200,000 kids missing. You know what it addresses? The pay and the pension of Ukrainian first responders. That's all it does. Fighting an endless war that we're not winning. There's no way in the world we can win. It's a money laundering scheme. That's what this Senate bill does. It doesn't secure the border. It doesn't take care of the children. It doesn't at all. It doesn't take care of any root causes of migration. It doesn't. So that's why when you have Elon jumping on board, and Elon I trust. If there's a Veep stakes going on in the Trump camp right now, Elon better be the top of the list. Unfortunately, he's too smart.
And I don't think he's eligible to be VP since he wasn't born in America, because
that's correct.
In order to be VP, you got to be eligible to be president. So he could be a cabinet official, though. You can put him. He'd
be a czar. Bring back the czars. Bring back the Obama czars. Yeah, these guys are too crazy to get appointed by the Senate. Yeah.
Even in a cabinet position, though, could you technically be? Because there is a slight chance you might become president. If you were, what's that show with what's his name, Kiefer Sutherland? I only watched one episode. Designated Survivor. They always have one in the State of the Union, right? One person goes like, all right, well, Elon, you can never be the designated survivor. So you have to be in the danger zone all the time.
We're actually going to put you in front of the president. Congratulations, you're the head of the Secret Service.
Good job.
What it is, I make him a czar. I mean, like Cass Sunstein and all those morons that Obama put up there. I mean, come on. They would be laughed out of the Senate in a confirmation hearing. So just make Elon a czar position of everything. Well, I'm running for president, and Elon is my czar of everything.
I just wonder the impact that it has, because he's not the first person that said that. We've had several people
True.
on the radio show that said that. Said because I asked everybody, I said, why? There has
Yeah.
to be a why behind this. There has to be a why it's not being stopped. And several other people have said the same thing. The only thing we can think of is a massive voting block, which is interesting too, because that is very presumptuous of Democrats to think so. So if I, a young, well, middle-aged, not so young anymore,
You ain't young.
full of optimism, go teach the ways of America that we used to be taught. Because if that is true, you got to start now. You got to start lobbying now. You got to start saying the benefits of voting for pro-America is better for you. It's better for the country. Because if not, if we're just like, oh, well, it's a lost cause, then what's the point? Like, that's the part that I think is incredibly frustrating, is that when I said, Mike, it feels to me that the American people have just given up. Because even look at our Republican Party, of which I voted for off and on for 20-something years, 30-something years, whatever. Not really good at delivering on their promises either. Some of them, sure, but not all of them. So at what point do I say, fool me once, can't get fooled again? Or as whatever the way George W. Bush put it back in the day. Because that's the part, to me, that is incredibly frustrating, is that we somehow still believe one side is bad and our side has all the answers, yet they haven't had any answers. And let's put Trump aside for a second. Let's talk about the state of some of the Republican parties in some of the states of America, including our very own Arizona.
No.
These parties are disasters.
Yep.
They have no money. They have no structure. They have no ability to help candidates win in close elections. You cannot win without a party infrastructure. The state of Arizona is at very real risk of going Democrat. Governor's already a Democrat. There's only one vote, one seat away from the Arizona House and Senate. And the Republican Party has no money. The Michigan Republican Party, I believe, has declared bankruptcy because they have no money. Like,
No, I mean, he's being serious when he says that. I think we have more in our savings account than I'm not kidding, that is in the Arizona Republican Party coffers. I'm not joking. I'm not making a joke, and I'm not a rich man. There's no money. They've spent it all on stuff that no one cares about. I get it.
No results.
Dominion voting machines.
No results.
Oh, did you see Mike, that guy hacked with a pen? He hacked the Dominion voting machine right in the middle of the court with a pen. I agree. Shadiness abound. I get it. And I care about it. It sucks. Let me tell you something. It's not going to help us win the next election. It literally is this year version or last year's version of the birther movement. It's like, okay, they slipped one past the goalie. What are we going to do now? How are we going to make that never happen again? Complaining about it isn't. So what these Republican parties have done is spent millions of dollars just to say, see, we told you so. What did that do? So you told us so, not winning independence, because here's the deal. The media isn't going to let that go. The media isn't going to run with that. Oh, a Dominion voting machine was hacked with a pen. NBC, that's our top story on NBC News tonight. No, it isn't. It's how great Joe Biden is. It's how Bidenomics is finally working in middle America. That's what they're going to talk about. So the Republican parties that Rob is talking about, these state parties, have spent all of this money on things that aren't going to help us win elections. You are not going to overturn anything. And by the way, you'll have probably the largest constitutional crisis on your hands if you do. So it's okay. Look, we got sucker punched. We just did. So it's time to move on and move forward. What Rob is pointing as the danger that each of these states' Republican parties in their coffers have been depleted in proving something just to say we proved it. And that's it. It's not going to win votes. It's just not going to win votes because the only ones paying attention are the ones that aren't going to vote Democrat anyway. Period.
And that's the structure, right? Everything is a structure. Everything is a system. And what Democrats do really well, they pay people to go to nursing homes, help people fill out ballots. Democrats, of course,
help.
They go register homeless people to vote, get the homeless people to vote. They do that stuff.
Saw it.
Yeah, well, you've seen it. Mike has literally seen that happen numerous times. And we bring all that up because Democrats are so committed to winning, they go do stuff that we don't want to do. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go register people to vote. So I get it. I'm not going to go volunteer to do that, especially if it's a party I half believe in. If I'm like, I'm going to go do this work and reward this party, what? Are they going to reward me back? Are they going to carry on America's torch and preserve freedom? Or they just care about being there too? And that's where I think this collective part of this is not just about going to vote, because there's only one thing you can do. There's a bunch of other things that we can do to help win if that's what we want, because the other side is going to do that. And it's like showing up to the Super Bowl without having practiced and hoping to win.
Right. True. Okay. Don't get me started on rigging the NFL. We can do that some other time. I will tell you.
On the nooner. Friday on the nooner.
As a Friday, look, I was Friday. Speaking of Friday, I was at First Friday here in Phoenix, Arizona. We have something called First Fridays, the arts festival downtown, lots of food trucks, music. I mean, and when I say music, I mean, it just seems like these kids find a spot where they can plug in an amp and they just start playing. And I am mad at that. It's pretty cool to see. It's fun to see. I was hit up probably a half a dozen times by people trying to get signatures to put RFK Jr. on the ballot. And I got to tell you, I signed immediately. Yep. Come on, give me this thing. I'm signing up. And it's not Operation. What did Rushbo do? Rush Limbaugh, he did Operation Chaos. Where it was change your registration, get Hillary off and it landed us Obama. But anyway, talk about jumping out of the frying pan in the fire. But this unintended consequences. The putting RFK Jr. on the ballot had nothing to do with beating Joe Biden. It had everything to do with just showing at least that there is a desire for a change, and not just having the lesser of two evils to vote for every time we vote, whether it's for PTA president, dog catcher, or governor or president, whatever it is. Just two options is all we have, and we don't like really either of them. So kind of a rainmaker. And by the way, if you look up, and I want to thank Rob for this, because Rob actually dug in and did the research on RFK Jr. He is a rainmaker. He's the guy walks the walk. You might not agree with him politically or ideologically, and he seems to like to comment on pretty women's posts on social media. Okay, if that's haven't we all? Anyway, but he actually is somebody that can make change as a candidate and show us that, you know what, we should look at somebody that's outside just who the Republicans and the Democrats tell us we have to choose between. So that's why I signed it. And I hope that I encourage you to maybe not, I don't care if you want RFK Jr. on the ballot or not. I don't care if he's on the ballot. He's not going to win. He's not going to be the president of the United States. So I really wasn't signing it for that. I was signing it just as a, you know what, we can do things a little differently, because you always do what you always done. You always get what you always got. And I don't think a lot of us are happy with what we got.
And that's the commonality that I really do think that we can work with, whatever we call the other side. Because again, I mentioned I have some younger progressive leaning friends that think the system stinks too. They just want to solve it in different ways. Because I went to, I'll use Representative Annalise Ortiz as an example. She is a progressive Democrat in Phoenix. So her region is Maryvale and Glendale, which are regarded as the lower income areas of our city. Housing is a big issue. And can you blame them? I mean, the housing prices here in the Valley have shot up tremendously. Like, I bought a house, the house I'm in right now, in 2017. It's not quite doubled in value, but it got close during the inflationary times in less than 6 years. Okay? So if you move to Phoenix or your rent went up to accommodate the people moving to Phoenix and you got kicked out of your house, who's advocating for those people? I understand it's not the government's job to house people, but sometimes these outside circumstances cause ripple effects. And if the government is being geared towards middle class and upper middle class, of course, people that don't have good housing policies or good zoning policies to be able to build a second structure in their yard, of course, they're going to feel forgotten about. Of course, they're going to feel ignored. And of course, they're going to get louder and they're going to get more disappointed in the system. So that is it's ultimately a fundamental agreement that the government is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Because I think if we looked at the government, at least in my head, the role of it should be as minimal as possible. Strong military, build me some roads, do whatever, some other things that you got to do, patrol the border, whatever.
Fix the potholes, damn it.
I mean, seriously. And you help out people that are on a lower economic rung. You would hopefully, ideally, teach them some skills to help them advance in their careers, make some more money, whatever, work on mindset, teach them life skills. I don't know what goes all into that. But I'd really still think to this point that if conservatives are like, you know what, we're going to go work on the housing issues. We're going to go work on healthcare access issues. We're going to solve those problems. Think about the results that would get. But here's the other thing. One of the other reasons Mike and I don't work at a radio station anymore is because your audience is the radio station's audience. So you have an audience, you appeal to the audience, and that's fine. But Republicans do the same thing. Democrats do the same thing. We have our audience. Our audience doesn't necessarily want us to talk about housing. Our audience wants us to talk about the border. So we raise holy hell about the border in hopes that people will vote Republican. It's not about fixing the border. It's about hoping you will vote because you're outraged. And then your outrage goes onto a little oval or it connects a dot. You put it in the thing, you mail it, whatever you do. They go back to Washington, like, ha, we got them again. We don't have to do anything. And I'll use Mayorkas, the guy that runs the Department of Homeland Security, as that perfect example, because Mike and I had several Republicans on our show. We're going to impeach Mayorkas when we win in 2022. Well, they won in 2022. Oh, look, there's an election. Now they're starting that process. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I use that. I go back to the RFK Jr. example as just I don't know. Let's encourage a different way of thinking in this. Let's do it. And I encouraged before in the show, and we're going to hang out with you for a couple hours every Monday at 4, and we're going to sprinkle in some good stuff during the week. But then we'll have about an hour and a half in the nooner on Friday, just for funsies. Get you into the weekend informed. But we're trying to do things differently. I think Rob and I are very excited about that. I don't know if you're excited about retread radio going on here in the Valley, but I don't think that, it's the same opinions, the same thoughts, the same everything. Rob and I are trying to, we're now giving you Rob and Mike, not Russell and Hunter. We're giving you Rob and Mike. Where's the Brewmance is about? This is how Rob and I talk. Rob was actually in my living room this afternoon, and we were hanging out and talking just like we do right here and talk about with you. And we talk about things. We try to laugh a lot. We try to make fun of each other a bit. And we try to have fun and just do things differently. And the only way we are going to win this is if we do things differently. And you might have to support somebody in something that you don't like. Look, I have been a fan just because he's goofy. Ever since the bow tie days, I thought Tucker Carlson was just funny. I thought he was entertaining. A lot of things I was kind of cringy things that he'd say. And I was like, oh man, holy cow. I've become one of the biggest Tucker Carlson fans because the media hates him. And now that the media hates him and he is somebody that they can't take down because his following is too big, he's backed. There's no way you can touch him, a lot like Elon Musk. I'm applauding what he's doing. You might have seen this before we wrap up. I think it'd be good to discuss, because Rob does have a broadcast journalism degree. Is Tucker Carlson is getting a lot of heat, and the established media, the corporate media, is trying to take him out because he just it looks like he just walked out of Vladimir Putin's office this morning. That he basically called it, I'm going to interview Vladimir Putin and get his side of the story. And we think he did. So if you go to social media now, which you're on right now, thanks for hanging out with us and streaming live on social media. We do appreciate that. Facebook. And by the way, if you're on YouTube as well, subscribe there for us so we can keep it going. We appreciate it if you subscribe and follow along. And by the way, please follow along. And until I put my glasses on, I can't really see what you're saying, but Rob has 3 years better eyes than I do. So he can read the comments. But if you go on social media, you're going to see the man's getting eviscerated at the possibility that he wanted the other side of the corporate story, that he wanted the other side of the story of this massive money laundering scheme that is Ukraine, Russia. And we understand who Vladimir Putin is. We understand. So we take it with a grain of salt. A lot of things he says, but we could get some nuggets that we just didn't know. And understand this. We had a president for 4 years where we had to take it with a grain of salt, but we knew who he was. We could take Donald Trump with a grain of salt because Donald Trump didn't change. Being president of the United States did not change Donald Trump. Only his net worth. His net worth shrunk. That's success in my book. If you go into public service and your net worth shrinks, you're truly a public servant. Moving on. I think that Tucker Carlson is actually attempting to make a huge change in the world of journalism here in the United States. And whether you like him or not, or agree that he should have been at the Kremlin meeting with Vladimir Putin, I'm just saying the Kremlin, I'm assuming that's where his office is, the meeting with Vladimir Putin, I would still look into it, maybe support the article, maybe click the link of the videos, anything that Tucker does, and at least encourage and show the media that we're not going to basically stand for their nonsense anymore with only one side of the story that they're all regurgitating the same way. Just like Retread Radio here in the Valley, we're trying to do something different and hopefully save this discussion that we should have as we the people.
I don't remember if Barbara Walters got this level of heat when she interviewed Fidel Castro, but she did back in the day. Mm-hmm. And that was seen as, obviously, Fidel's going to spin things and give propaganda and tell you everything in Cuba is amazing. Putin's going to do the same thing, but you get to have the choice to watch it, to pay attention to it. And I think that's really what I notice about my fellow journalists now is they're all fearful because the media landscape is changing. And some may not have jobs for a long time. There have been several different media layoffs, Washington Post being one of them, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, who is the Amazon founder, the LA Times. A bunch of billionaires bought these things. And we're trying to resurrect media, but it's just not working. So there aren't as many jobs left. So, of course, they're going to get outraged that Tucker Carlson is going to do something that Barbara Walters would have done 30 or 40 years ago and talk to Fidel. So, yeah, okay, Putin, war, I get it. But don't you want to hear straight from the man himself to at least hear what he has to say? And again, you take what he says with several grains of salt, knowing he's lying, but at least you have the opportunity to listen.
Yeah. Hey, but and you get to decide what you think is BS and what's truth. That's fine. Mm-hmm. That's okay. And that's kind of the world we live in, where it's like, oh, your truth comes from this news source, so it's not truth. It is in a lot of cases. But I applaud Tucker Carlson. I'll stand by Tucker Carlson because he's doing what journalists don't do. I showed Rob a picture when he was over at the house today of what I said could sum up the entire Biden presidency, and that was a picture of the set. I don't know if you understand this, but a lot of the times you see the president and his cabinet members, it isn't in the White House. So actually it's in the basement of the White House. And I'm being truthful here, but it looks like he's in a different room. It looks like he's got this grand room that was made just for this situation. Well, it's essentially a trade show booth in the basement that has digital windows that look like it's outgoing to something. And I'll put it up to the spot right here so you can see it there. I hope you can get a good view of it. But this is actually a set that is made by the Biden White House to make it look like he's somewhere he's not. And the press pool is right there. No one is challenging them going, why are we in front of a set and not in the Oval Office, the Rose Garden? Why are we not where we normally are? Why are we down here? No one. We look at Karine Jean-Pierre, gets away with just blatantly, flagrantly lying. And can walk out when she's just upset and she just, these facts are not the ones I was going to give you, and can walk out, and we're okay with that. And that we have a press pool in the in the White House that won't follow up with questions that are real, questions that we want answers to, like questions that actually paint the administration in a true light. people like Tucker Carlson, again, whether you support him or not, whether you dig him or not, whether you dig him or not, I want you to support him. I just support what he's doing, to show them that there is an audience, to show them that there is a market, that shows them there is a thirst and a hunger by we the people to actually do something that these corporate bozos aren't doing and actually get the true story. And that's why Rob and I feel very liberated doing what we're doing here streaming, because we can be us. We can say what we want. There's nobody running the show here. There's nobody pulling our strings. This is how Rob feels. This is how I feel. This is our opinion on anything. And we don't hold back. And we'll hold each other accountable because we know each other better than anybody. We've been friends for 16 years. If Rob's BSing, I'm going to call him out on it. If I'm BSing, he'll call me out on this. So I encourage you to do the same. But we'll see if we can post this picture, because I don't think it came through on the screen. But it's a great example of, hey, I didn't know that. Yeah, you didn't know that because the journalists that are in that room in front of that fraud stage don't expose that. It's embarrassing.
It's almost, to me, you watch sports and then you comment on sports as if you have something to do with the outcome, or as if you could have caught the pass the wide receiver dropped. And I used to do that. I wanted to be a sports talk show host. And as I got older, I'm like, it doesn't matter what I say. It only matters how they play. In some ways, it's very much similar to politics. They say a lot, but watch how they play. Because we get to pick the players in the game. That's what's different about watching sports than politics. But are we picking the right people? And I think this really gets down to our inability or unwanting to change. Because we've had opportunities to vote for other people, different people. And we did it on a presidential level in 2016. But we haven't really done it on a congressional level, by and large, or a senatorial level. We choose to always go with what's easy than what's hard. Even though America literally was founded on the hard path, the break away from the biggest empire in the world. Like, that's in our DNA. The ability to change, the willingness to stand up for freedom so that our lives are good. But more importantly, future generations get that opportunity. Because here's the thing that I will always advocate for America. When I was a kid, when I decided I want to do radio, I got the chance to do that. And it was a lot of hard work on my part. But if I lived in Zimbabwe, I couldn't do that. Hell, if I lived in France, I probably couldn't do that. But the fact that I had that opportunity and got to do what I wanted and live my own life, that's what they talk about, the founders, when they said life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is all an individual experience, life. It's all about what you want to do. But let's imagine that there was a time in the future where the next Rob Hunter who wants to go be on the radio, and he's going to go to college to be on the radio, but he's not allowed to. Or that college isn't there. Or there are no radio stations because they're all controlled by who knows what. One big company, the government. Not having that is really the loss. And it is so incredibly ironic that these younger generations who have had the most technological advancements of any human society, at least that we know of, and they're still miserable because we're training them and teaching them to be miserable about everything instead of saying, dude, you remember when they went to the moon in 1969? I have more technology on my phone than they went to the damn moon. Maybe I should be a little bit more grateful for what I have. But why would we do that?
We're still complaining about it. We have more tech than Apollo 13, but we're like, you know what? I'm mad that my call didn't go through. Okay, it's talking to satellites, sister. Let it go. Just let it go, for the love of grief.
Exactly.
Holy mackerel. We get down on these phones so much. Like, I can't believe I don't have reception. It's talking to outer space.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, buddy, before we wrap this up, see, look, I'm going to go old man. Now, can we get to some of these comments? Let's check out what's going on here. Yeah, Fred, Lucero, dude, whatever. Man, we missed you too, buddy. Come on. Yeah, what was Rob bagging on Farmington? When did you bag on Farmington?
I've bagged on Farmington plenty. So I've actually, this is actually a good, I'm glad that I'm glad that that was brought up by Desert Fly Tire, because I hope I said that right.
Oh, yeah.
Because and again, in unlearning what I've learned, and this is what's so great about being able to change your mind. For a long time, for me, I was so ambitious that I didn't look at Farmington fairly. So now, many years removed from Farmington, it holds a very special place in my heart and in my head, because it really it allowed me to have fun on the radio again. Like, after you have this job that you love and it's just gone like that, sometimes you're pissed off. So I went to Farmington and I did this morning show with Dorothy Nobis, who is the most amazing human being ever. And I started to have fun again doing a radio show. And it was like coming back to life. So I've come around on Farmington because I unlearned what I taught myself about my opinion about a place.
Whatever, Dorothy. I thought I was the most amazing human ever, but whatever. Grizz, thank you. And we know that, Grizz. Grizz says he's been all around the world. America is the best place. You darn right it is, man. I tell you, it's just, and again, tell me the other countries that migrants are fleeing to for a better opportunity. You know, come on. This is, yes, it is a pain, and it is going to be absolutely detrimental that we have 9 million new residents that we don't know what to do with. But those 9 million can be 9 million examples of why this is. Wait a second. What did Fred says? Alaska is sending National Guard to help the government in Texas. All right. Problem is with that, though, and it's always a good thing to hear when you hear that a government is sending the National Guard, and look what Katie Hobbs is doing in sending National Guard troops to the border. They're paper pushers. It's unfortunate.
Yeah,
it's
they have no law enforcement authority.
Nothing they can do but help move people along the system.
It was Deanna who said, do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results is insanity.
True.
2007, when I was at the border, National Guard was there. It was that big of a problem. And I remember going into one of their tents, and they had one of the guys, he had his binos on. And they had, we can't arrest him. We can't do anything. We just sit in these tents and advise. Hey, Border Patrol, there's some guys over there. So 2007, 2024. It's our solution that isn't a solution.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Deanna, yes, I don't know if you guys have seen that. If you guys have seen the Sound of Freedom, but holy mackerel. I have not watched it. And the reason why I haven't watched it is because I do know I'm not a denier that human trafficking exists and is just one of the most horrific things, part of our human, who we are as a species, because it's global and it's awful and it's terrible. But it's definitely something, if you don't know, or you're not educated on the system, what's going on with global human trafficking, it's definitely something, to pick up on for sure. Yeah. And yes, it is beer o'clock. Duh. Come on, Frank. We know you're talking to us. We don't know that. Holy mackerel. And what happened to us on 550? I appreciate you asking us, Alan. Look, they decided to go in a different direction. And with me, Rob decided he was going to take his talents in a different direction, and his heart and his desires in a different direction, and bring it here online to streaming. He was just waiting for me to come along, and here we are, and we're glad to be with you, and we're glad to be back. But here's the crux of it. Rob and I have something that you're just not going to find in Talk Anything, any type of top product. We have been true friends and brothers for 16 years, and we are bringing honesty and clarity to you instead of holding the line of one ideology or a sponsor. So we're excited to be here. We're excited to have you here, and we hope you just follow along and stick with us.
I like
Am I
to
speaking for you, Rob?
Yeah, well, I just like to refer. I told Mike this. I said my favorite group all time is a rap group called Outkast, made up of two members, Andre 3000 and Big Boy. And Andre 3000, every once in a while, just likes to wander away and comes back, and wander away and comes back. I had a little wander away period where I had to go, think about some things and travel and get acclimated to a new life. Yet here we are, back making music again together. And I would have it no other way. But I
want to thank Truman and everybody. Yes, thank you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Because, this is going to be something that is going to grow from the ground up. And you guys are here with us on the ground floor. So that's number one, incredibly awesome. So again, getting down to it, we want to have a place where we can communicate with you, and we want you to invite your friends who may think a similar way, who may think the opposite way, to come here and say, you know what? Let's put parties aside sometimes and let's think about the country and what's best for the country and what's best for we the people. And we know that Mike and I have the opportunity with you to be able to do that without big corporate radio stations and what they want. So
Yes.
we're excited about this. We know there's a lot of work ahead, but we know that you're going to rock it with us.
Heck yeah. All right. And thanks, David. Appreciate it. And I guess I can. It's our show. I can say I totally agree with you. Now, Lynn, I want to talk to you. Lynn, hold on. Lynn, hold on. If we're talking about Tucker Carlson's laugh, I understand that it's a unique laugh, but let me give you a personal story here. You see, back in a previous life, Rob and I had a lot of text messages that kept coming up, and we would see text during the show, much like you guys streaming here. There was one woman that just took issue with Rob's laugh. Now, I told you, Rob's my little brother I never wanted. So he is my brother from another. And so when somebody insulted my man in probably one of the coolest laughs I have ever heard, I was blown away by this. Because why would you be tired of a laugh? A laugh is probably the most beautiful thing there is, especially when it comes into the soul, like Rob throws it, like my daughter throws it, like my mom. Holy mackerel, Claude can let it go. And that's just, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So Lynn, it's okay. Give the whole, I can't do the Tucker laugh. It's like, it's like a horse neigh. I totally get it, but it's from the guy's soul. So I just say, give it another shot and just, you know what? The guy's laughing, and that's basically the coolest thing you can do. And if anybody wants to punk my boy Rob's laugh, you got to take it up with me.
Got to go.
What up, Jim Hurt? Tequila
Yes,
Jim
we're still alive,
there,
Tim.
man.
Still alive.
Hey, y'all, thank you so much for hanging out. Thanks for weighing in. Thanks for being here.
Adventure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're just going to keep on keeping on. We're glad to have you all here with us. We really do. And we're going to stay consistent, at least as it stands now, Friday. Oh, I can take these off now. I can stop being old. Hold on. Check it out. All right. So we're going to keep this up Monday at 4, Friday. We're going to do the nooner and we're going to sprinkle it in, but we will stay consistent all the way through. Once you have it, you're going to have it for good. And you can go ahead and tune in and again on that, subscribe, share it out to your friends. The podcast is going to be up here shortly. Share it out to your friends, get them to subscribe and just kind of and tell them about a new type of talk that maybe they haven't heard of, hopefully around the country. We're going to keep it worldwide and nationwide and local right here on the Brewmance with Russell and Hunter. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Rob, thanks, buddy.
Thanks, everybody. Great time. We'll see you Friday at noon.